Next thing you know, he, kind of starts kissing on me and rubbing on me, putting his hand under my shirt. And we start getting a little, it was going to third base. Start getting a little frisky. So I'm sitting there thinking in my head, like, I can't be about to have sex with this man, especially not in his back seat. Especially if we ain't even been on a date yet. I'm thinking like we have not gone on a date, but we about to fuck in his back seat. All of this love is toxic. All these kisses and hugs and knock shit. You a damn drug, you toxic. And I'm like, your ex just pulled up and he zoomed off. And we just rode off and she started to follow us. And with her starting to follow us, he was like, just get down, like sink down in the seat so she can't see you. I'm thinking to myself, like, what? Like, so she can't see me. Like, if she's the ex, why doesn't matter? But I'm like, okay, maybe she's crazy. I don't know. So I just kind of slid down in the seat so she wouldn't see me from behind him. Although he had like some tint that was kind of peeling. So I'm just like, what the fuck? And so we're driving all through the neighborhood, turning corners and stuff, driving pretty fast. And she on us, following us, like literally. And I'm just like, what in the world? And so we finally lost her some kind of way. I was ducked down the whole time. We finally pulled into like a little cove. And there was on the other side of the street, so to speak. It was on the other, okay, this was his house on the block. And there was like a little grassy, like, I don't want to say swamp. It was like a little grassy area with no houses, right? Like on the other side of the street. And on the other side of that was like a cove. So you can sit way back off over here and see the house from over and see his house and his driveway. We sat there and we seen that she pulled up to the house and she was waiting for him. She didn't know where we had gone, but she knew that he had to come back home. So we sat there thinking she was going to leave. And he was like, man, I'm so sorry about this. You want a massage while we wait? And I didn't want to say no. I was just like, oh, okay. I kind of turned away. He was massaging me and it just was like, felt weird and everything was weird. I just wanted to go home. And she was over there. My car was over there, so she kind of seen it. And he said, okay, she's not going to leave. So here's what we got to do. I'm going to pull around and I'm going to let you out a house across the street. I'm going to pull around and let you out real quick and you go behind the house and wait till I tell her to get in the car and go with me and I'm going to pull off so you can get in your car and leave. And I was like, oh, well, this don't work. And so he came around, he finally pulled up the street. But I remember before I hopped out, before I hopped out, he pulled up the street and he asked her, he pulled up and was kind of like, and he pulled up on the street and he got out so that she wouldn't walk to the car. He got out and walked back while the car's sitting right here on the street because he was getting ready to turn to my hiding spot. So he got out trying to get her to go home because I guess he didn't want me to go home. I don't know. He got out and walked back so she wouldn't get to the car where I was at. And he was like, I heard him shouting at her and they were yelling back and forth. He was like, man, what you doing here? What you doing all this? I told you, you ain't giving me what I need. That was exactly the words I remember him saying. I told you I don't want to be with you. You ain't giving me what I need. And this and that. And she was like, but John, I love you. She was begging and pleading and crying. But I want to be with you, this and that. And who car is this? Who is this? Who you got over here? Man, that ain't. I remember him saying something like, man, that's my cousin. He got a gal over here or something. I don't got nobody over here. I remember that arguing, and I remember he was kind of like, I looked at the rear mirror and see that he kind of like shoved her. And she was like trying to get to the car, get to the passenger side to see if I was in there. So I guess that was his way of trying to prove to her ain't nobody in here because the car was sitting there, but he kept trying to keep her back. She's like, no, where to go? And it's like, man, go on, tell her. And that was arguing back and forth, and I'm just kind of sitting down in the seat like, what the fuck? And so he finally came back to the car, put it in gear, and zoomed off. And I guess she went back to her car or whatnot. And she never left. And I think he pulled back around one more time before I went to my hiding spot, because she was still there, and yeah, that's what happened. He pulled back around before I went to my hiding spot to get out. He pulled back around. I was in the car, and he kind of pulled up. He would always pull up past his house, and the driveway, so she wouldn't look in and see. And he would talk back, I remember him talking back, looking at like, "Why are you up there by your car? Why you won't just get in and go home?" And she's like, "My car won't start." He was like, "Damn, man," and this and that and that, because the car really wouldn't start. He told me that it was some kind of busted car that she had went and got or something. It was something. He told me the whole story, but I can't remember. And so her car wouldn't start. She was stuck in the driveway. She couldn't go because her car wouldn't start. And I'm just like, whatever. And so he finally pulled around to the house because she wasn't going nowhere. She couldn't chase somewhere. So he finally pulled around and was hidden across the street, or hidden at the end of the street. Their house was at the end of the street. So he pulled around to a back street from right before you get to his street, but he was out of sight. And he told me, just go and get out, hide behind this bush, hide behind this person's house. They cool. He was like, they cool. They ain't gonna say nothing to you. If they do see you outside of their yard, I know them. Da da da. And I was just like, I had no choice. I know, what the fuck, man. So he said, you get out, go hide right there. I'm gonna tell her to get in the car, go over to the store, and then when we pull off, go run to your car and leave. And I'm just like, okay. So we did the plan. He dropped me off there, and I was sitting there. I remember my little flip flops were sinking in the mud. I was nervous. I'm like, what the fuck? What if she drive by and she look over here and see me? Because they did drive by. So he finally got in the car, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna take you to the store, get something to help you with your car or whatever." And so they got in the car, drove off to a nearby gas station, I guess, and I seen them drive by. I was just like, okay, good. They gone, out of sight. Harriman ran out from behind the spot, across the street to the car, got in, and drove the fuck home. And I wish I could say that was the last time I seen him, but it wasn't. It wasn't the last time I seen him. Yeah. That night, the next day, probably, I went home, called up my girl, Evelyn. That's my best friend. And I called her up, and I was like, "Oh, guess what happened?" I'm telling her all about, what happened and how the ex showed up. Because I thought it was a crazy-ass story. Like, nothing that crazy had ever happened to me. Or her, for that matter. So I'm just telling her all about it, and she was like tripping, of course, and she was like, "I know you ain't gonna see him again, are you?" And I was like, hell no, with doubt in my voice, of course. And I was like, she knew that I would. I don't know, I guess back in the day, we were young, in our mid-20s, we were young and dumb, have never really had boyfriends or anything. And it was important for us to have a boyfriend because we never had them in high school. We were both like the little, I guess, nerds or whatever, band nerds or whatever. Didn't really have boyfriends or get the guy. Wasn't popular. So this was our chance. We had lost a little weight, learned how to dress a little bit, got a little cute. So, we really wanted a boyfriend to like validate it all the way. So she my best friend. She knew. But I was trying to not sound too stupid. And I was like, nah, hell no. I'm not going back over there. Like, I was trying my best to be like that. And then we went ahead and we started talking some more. We had another friend back in the day. Her name was Georgina. And Georgina is like the give no fucks about a nigga type of girl. And she was like, she thought we cared too much about a nigga, basically. Like, y'all, this and that. That was her stance on it. Like, like, fuck these niggas, basically. And so Evelyn, my best friend, was telling me, like, well, if you gonna still see him, because she knew I was lying, don't tell Georgina, because she gon' have a field day with this. And I'm like, I know. But I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna just see what I'm gonna do. Yeah. But anyway, next night, My ass is right back over there. And I don't know why. All I can say is just I wanted a boyfriend. A part of me, though, was wondering, at that time in my life, I was like, well, he seems to really want me. He seems to tell me that I'm better than his ex, and his ex couldn't do it for him, but I do. And I was like, they kind of made me feel validated, I would say, good about myself, him saying it. Because I'm like, in my head, like, he wants me, not her. I must be a better woman and all of that. I think a part of me was really eating that up. And I don't know if he was deliberately trying to do that or if he was serious or what. It don't matter, but that's how I was feeling. Like, okay, well, he seems to really like me. He seems to really, think I'm all that. Nobody really ever thought I was all that, ever. So, I went back over there. And once again, we had a date outside in this car. I pulled up. He was sitting outside smoking a blunt with his cousin. And he was telling his cousin about the night previously. And it was like, man, yeah, and just laughing about it. He was like, I told my ex that it was your car, pointing to his cousin. And his cousin was like, keep me out of that shit. His cousin that lived there with him. And he was just sitting there laughing and joking about it, smoking a blunt with his cousin. Like, nigga, I was in the bush, hiding, waiting for you to drive by. And you think this is funny. And I didn't say that. But I'm thinking like, you think that's funny? You wait in the bush. You do that shit. Let me have another nigga pull up and you do it. That's what I'm thinking, but I didn't say. I was just kind of like standing there awkward, nervous, because I don't smoke weed. I was just like, yeah, whatever. So, fast forward, they finished their little blunt. Cousin go in the house. We went to his car. He was like, yeah, we can sit in my car, sit in the back. And we watched some DVDs again. But this time we got in the back seat. And he was telling me like, he had apologized for the night before. I meant to mention that. He did apologize on the phone that night when he invited me over. And I was just like, she don't sound like an ex to me. He was like, oh, she just crazy or whatever. So I'm like, okay. She did seem crazy. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, we get in his back seat, right? And we're starting to watch movies. He had like a little small portable DVD player, and he would like post it up on the arm console that's in between those two front seats. He some kind of way fixed it up there to where we can watch it. So we got in his little back seat. He had like some leather seats, and I think it was warm outside. So he had the car started. So when we hot and had the AC going, and all of that. And then he was telling me, since his ex car was broke last night, the night before, and she couldn't go nowhere. He was like, yeah, I made her ass sleep in the car until the morning when I was able to get up and work on her car. And I'm like, so she slept in the car, and you went in the house. And I'm thinking to myself, is he that cold, or is he lying? A part of me was like, well, okay, maybe he did because he really don't like her like that. He seemed like he hate her. One part of me was thinking that. The other part was like, but really made his ex, like, sleep in the car all night into the morning. And she went for that. Crazy she was acting. So he was telling me that. I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't really know what to think. I was like, oh, okay. And so I didn't believe it. A part of me did. I didn't know what to believe, so we just continued watching the DVDs. He was just telling me how, he was talking shit about her a lot. He was like, she ain't really my type no more. She didn't do it for me no more. Then he started saying some things, some colorist things, that I didn't know what to make of it at the time because I had not learned how to be assertive. But now looking back, I wish I would have said so much to him about the colorist shit he was saying because it wasn't cool. But he was like, because his ex was dark skinned, and he would say things like, I didn't want to have kids with her, get married to her because she wasn't gonna produce the type of kids that I want. I want light skinned kids, and he's like, your skin color and mixed with mine will make some pretty kids. And he would say all that, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And I wish I would have said something then, but I wasn't at that point in my life. I mean, I already had tolerated his ex chasing us through the neighborhood. So I just sat there and was like, oh, okay. I wanted to say so much and didn't feel comfortable with it, but I'm like, okay. By this time, there had been a lot of shit that I wasn't comfortable with, but the main thing that I felt kept me going with him was because he liked me. He seemed to be into me, and he was attractive. And that's what really I was going with. Like, somebody likes me. I needed the validation. So everything else was out the window. And so we're standing there watching a DVD. Next thing you know, he, kind of starts kissing on me. And rubbing on me, putting his hand under my shirt. And we started getting a little, it was going to third base. Started getting a little frisky. So I'm sitting there thinking in my head, like, I can't be about to have sex with this man, especially not in his back seat. Especially if we ain't even been on a date yet. I'm thinking, like, we have not gone on a date, but we about to fuck in his back seat. So I'm thinking this in my head, like, I don't really want to do this, but I don't want to say no. I was unsure about it, but I went with it anyway, because I guess I wanted him to keep liking me. And that was my main goal, was to keep getting the validation, keep having him like me, and just, yeah. And so we kept going. He was fumbling around and trying to get comfortable in the back seat. I remember I pulled off my pants, and we just had on tops on, had the pants off. And I remember he took his shirt off and he put it in his back window. Like, it was like, I guess the top roof of the car was coming down and you could easily slide something in there. So he had the shirts hanging in the back window and the side window, so if anybody drove by, they wouldn't see us in the back seat. So he took off his shirt and he did that. And yeah, we did that. And then he told me just to sit on him. Like, he was seated, and he told me to ride him. I had never really rode anybody. I had never really had sex that much, let alone in the back seat of a car. And I'm just like, and I just went with it. I'm just like, what? So we had sex, and I remember afterwards, after fucking in the back seat, it didn't last very long. It wasn't mind blowing or anything like that. But I remember him asking me after I got off of his dick, basically. He asked me, did you come? And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, this lasted all of but maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Did I come where? That's what I'm thinking. I think I had a little voice in my head that was assertive, but I didn't know how to say it out loud. And so I'm just thinking, I didn't know what to answer. I wanted to say yes to make him happy. And I still don't remember what I said. I think I said no. I was like, no, but I enjoyed it or something like that. I said something along the lines of that because I didn't want to. I guess I was trying to stroke his ego. But I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't mind blowing or nothing like that. I just did it because I'm yeah. So I pulled my pants on, put my clothes on. I was surprised the ex didn't show up this time. So she showed up there and we asked out in the car. I don't know what he said or did. I was wondering the whole time. And even on my drive home after our little escapade in this back seat, I was driving home wondering, what did he say to her to make her not come over anymore? What did he do? Her car still broke down, but her car wasn't there, so she drove her home. He did work on it the next morning and fixed it. But I'm like, what did he say to her? I didn't ask. I wasn't that bold to ask. Once again, I wasn't assertive, so I didn't ask, but I was sure wondering. I'm just yeah. So we had sex and all of that. No date. Yeah. So I went on home. I guess fast forward to another day or something. And I went over. It was maybe the next weekend. I went over to my best friend's house. And I went over there. And I was telling her about me having sex in the back seat. That I still went over there. And she was like, we had this saying, we'll say slore. And I feel like we're the first ones, me, Georgina, and Evelyn, all three of us, I feel like we're the first ones that made that up. I've heard it around other places, but I thought we were the first ones to make it up. I'm just saying. But slore is slut and whore put together. And so Evelyn was like, you little slore. I can't believe you had sex in the back seat. And I was just like, I know. And I'm just like, yeah. And she never judged me, but because we both were doing some crazy shit. She never judged me, but I was just like, yeah. And then I was telling her, and he smoked weed. She's like, what? I can't believe you with somebody that smoke weed. When you used to get on us about dating niggas that smoke weed. And I'm like, yeah. I was just doing the most just to talk to this dude. Just taking the most. And I was just telling her all about it. And we talking and laughing about, you know, my whole escapade. And so, and then she asked me, you know, I told her about the ex a little bit. She's like, I said, I got her Facebook page. Let's go look at it. So we went and looked at the Facebook page of her. She was like, ew, that's how she look and this and that. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, you know, to me, she just fat, black, and ugly. Taking the words out of my ex's, not ex, taking the words out of John's mouth. That's what I'm talking about. Taking the words out of his mouth. And I'm like, yeah. And looking back, I'm like, she wasn't really even ugly. I was just doing the most because I was trying to be the better woman. I was letting John fill my head up with that, like, yeah, you know, you better than her. And I see now what he was doing. But back then, I was just going along with it. Like, yeah, she fat, black, and ugly. And we just laughing about it. I was telling her how, you know, how his ex was crying in the street, how she was crying in the street, telling me, I just need you, I want to be with you and all that. We were just laughing about it. And yeah, not my proudest moment. This whole thing is not my proudest moment, but hey, I'm telling the truth. Because, yeah, that was my dating life. So, as we're talking about it more and more, just in there laughing, kicking it, we had planned to go downtown that night. We was waiting on Georgina to come over after her daughter went to sleep. So we already made plans to go out. I hadn't seen my friends in a long time. Haven't hung out in a long time because I was always hanging around John. And so I was over there kicking it. And we was going to wait for Georgina to come and I'll head downtown. So while I'm sitting there, I get a text from John saying, hey, babe, I want to take you out to eat. I was like, dang, I would have loved to do that. But I'm like, I ain't seen my friends, so I want to go with my friends. I didn't think it would be a problem or an issue, you know, since me and John have been hanging out, like, every day after work, on weekends, like, since we met. So it had been already, like, a month. Maybe, yeah, about a month or so. Maybe about a month, yeah. A couple of weeks, even. And I'm like, you know, telling him like, yeah, I haven't seen my friends. I just want to hang out with them. We're going downtown this weekend. Or we're going downtown later. No response. I'm sitting there checking my phone. I'm like, you know, feeling a little anxious. Because I'm like, why he ain't saying nothing? I'm like, he ain't say, okay, have fun. And that's what I was kind of expecting him to say. Well, he never said anything. So I'm just sitting there and laughing talking with Evelyn, and then next time my phone ringing, it's him calling me. So I was like, okay, he okay. So I answered it. I'm like, hey, baby, you get my text? And next thing I know, he's just like, kind of in an angry tone said in the phone, yes, I got your text. Really saying like, you know, I just want this to work. I just really want this to work. You know, I didn't want to upset him. I didn't want him to not like me anymore, all of that. So I'm just like sitting there crying, and I'm like, you know, I mean, you can come downtown with us. I'm trying to wheel and deal with him and trying to calm him down because I didn't want to hang up the phone and be mad. And I didn't want to not go out with my friends either because I hadn't seen them, and they had already gotten on me for not seeing them. Like, you know, you got that new dude, we ain't seen you. So I'm like, and he was just like, I'm not used to my coming on to my woman all the time. She need to come on to me sometimes. I've initiated sex all the times we've had. You don't never come on to me. I need you to come on to me. And I'm just like, here we go again. I'm feeling